Welcome back, Toddler Tribe. Today, I'm going to share a real world experience that I had as a listener and an observer while I was in Connecticut doing a presentation at an early childhood ed conference. Now, it's not even what happened at the conference. The conference was over. It was awesome, by the way. Oh my gosh, just such great energy. And we had an awesome session. And, we were throwing paper at each other because we do fun things like that. But anyhow, afterwards, I went to lunch before I was going to hit the road to go home. It was about 3.5 hour drive, and I knew I needed to eat. So I went to this restaurant, and I'm sitting there, and it's so quiet, and like the ocean's right there. And so I'm just listening to the water and kind of decompressing everything that had happened over the last few days at this awesome conference with infant and toddler teachers. And all of a sudden, a family shows up, a mom, a dad, and a little girl. Although she wasn't that little, she's 8, 9 years old. So just on the cusp of that early childhood age. And everybody sits down, everybody orders, and mom whips out her phone and starts doing something on it. Dad does not have a phone in his hand, and the little girl does not have a phone in her hand either. Now, this story isn't really about phones, but it's important that you know that as I set this up. The point of this story is how we misinterpret each other's words, right? You know, I'm all about the words. So everybody orders, they're done. And mom's doing her thing on the phone. And this little girl says, "We're all so boring today." Did you just get triggered? Maybe you did. I know I did. And that's what perked me up, right? Because I wasn't really paying attention to them. I was listening to the waves of the ocean, and it was so nice and the sun shining. And we're all so boring today, she says, which is a very tweeny thing to say with a little tweeny attitude to boot. Now my ears perked up. I don't look over, that's rude, but I'm listening. And her mom is obviously also triggered by those words. And the first thing she says back is, "Who?" Like she needs a little clarification before apparently she gets really upset, which is great, by the way. Always looking for clarification and getting curious, right? And her daughter says, "We are." Now, granted, this happened very quickly, okay? And mom, who has still not looked up from her phone, says, "I'm just trying to get something done here so that you can," I think it was like a soccer related thing with they had to order a t-shirt. I don't know, something like that. And this girl smiles at her. Now I am looking. This girl smiles at her and says, "Yeah, and we all ordered the same thing." Whoa. Oh my gosh. I'm just going to let that sit there for a minute. Now, we have a highly verbal 8 or 9 year old, right? We have someone who can use their processing and their cognition to clarify what they mean. And even then, there was this massive gaping miscommunication where mom took those words, "We are so boring," to mean that she was boring. It was an offensive, that it had something to do with her identity. Or maybe even she was thinking that it had something to do, as obviously she was thinking that it had something to do with the phone out at the table and that her daughter was judging her for that. Listen, I spent more years than I would like to own up to thinking that my kids were judging me. When in hindsight, I just know they weren't. I was projecting that onto them and taking the words they said and adding a whole nother level. And that's what this mom did. Who's boring? Well, I'm just trying to get something done here for you. Now, I want you to understand I'm exaggerating these words. This what really struck me the most is nobody was using unkind intentions or unkind tones. Everybody was just talking back and forth, and that was cool. But those underlying miscommunications are so real. This kid was just pointing out the fact that they had all ordered Alfredo. It looked really good, by the way. I did not order Alfredo. Maybe I should have. All right, let's take that and break it down a little further. One of the things I teach in my professional development trainings and in my keynote speeches is that kids, even kids as old as her, they approach you as an adult from their heart space. Their words reflect how they feel and how they think about themselves. It's all heart centered. They're trying to share with you from that physiological space. Now, as adults, we take that information and we capture it in our ever analytical, overthinking, trying to problem solve brains, just like this mom did. And we go, wait. There's not a problem here. And if there is here, let me help solve it for you by telling you why I'm doing this. And this kid, she was great, like Teflon. Let that bounce right off her, right? She didn't catch it in her cognitive processing space. She let it bounce right off her. And from her little heart, she said, yeah, to her mom. A really positive way to say, I'm actually okay that you're on your phone. And I'm really actually kind of glad you are because you're solving the thing that I need solved for soccer. So that's cool. Here's what I was trying to say. Now, let's dial this back a few years. What happens when there's a 2-year-old and they're pre-verbal? What happens when there's a 3-year-old and they can kind of talk to you, right? They've got full sentences and everything, and that's great. And they're thinking a whole lot because their brains are on fire and growing. But that secondary level of she didn't understand what I actually meant and now is coming back at me with a deflective statement. Let me go ahead and clarify for her what I meant in the first place. They're not there. They don't have that capability. I'm not going to go into the brain science of it all because it's unnecessary and it would just kind of take us off track. But I want you to know that it exists. Having that level of expectation of a 2, of a 3, or even a 4-year-old is going to cause power struggles. The miscommunication is going to cause the power struggle. And so to keep that seesaw from going the other direction, when your kiddo, your teeny tiny, says things like, I'm bored, don't like you, this is mad. That's one of my favorites. Because that's a declarative statement with an emotion at the end, which confuses us. That's not how English works. No, but it's how feeling works. They talk to you with words that describe how their body is feeling and how their nervous system is feeling in that moment. Instead of catching that with your brain and thinking you've always got to solve, just reflect back like a mirror. This is what mad feels like for you. Boring is sometimes how we feel. Did you know? It actually turns on our brain and makes us think new things. Right? Before you go to the teaching moment, before you go to the solving moment, just reflect it back. That's step one. And you can do that. Okay, I'm going to keep this one super short and sweet so that you can chew on it a little bit. But your job the next time the child in your life, whether it's a student or it's your kiddo at home, whoever it is, says something wackadoo and you're like, whoa, I don't know how to respond to that. Don't think about it. Just mirror back a narration statement and see what happens. All right. You know what to do, Toddler Tribe. Until our next episode, stay mindful and proactive as we transform the toddler years.